You know, every single sports official, I don't care what sport or what level, they have this thing you could call their sacred text.
The rule book.
The rule book, yeah. It's the absolute unquestionable authority they turn to for any big decision. But is that really enough?
Well, that's the crucial distinction, isn't it?
Yeah.
The veteran officials we're drawing from today, they make it so clear. That rule book, it completely fails you when you're dealing with what they call mental or psychological turmoil.
Right.
It has zero guidance on how to handle a furious coach or, how to de-escalate aggression between players.
So our mission today is to go way beyond the whistles and the flags. We are doing a deep dive into the hidden requirements of great officiating. We're going to focus on game management, mental skills, and that long, often painful road to mastery.
And for you listening, this is really a shortcut. It's about understanding why the best officials just seem to disappear into the game while the bad ones.
They end up on every highlight reel for all the wrong reasons.
Exactly. And if we had to boil it all down, the core finding from all these sources is this. Officiating is primarily about people skills.
It's not just the rules.
Not at all. It's your ability to communicate and manage human conflict. That's actually more important in the end than knowing every single obscure rule. The job is. It's really applied psychology.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's start with game management, which we're calling the art of people skills. An official is always communicating, verbally, with the whistle. But what's the most important channel?
It's the nonverbal channel. The sources are emphatic about this. Your nonverbal cues, body language, your gestures, your tone, they are so much more frequent and, frankly, way more powerful than anything you say.
So if an official is tired or hesitant,
their body broadcasts it before they even open their mouth.
Let's get a bit more granular on that. We all get basic body language like posture, but officials also have to manage their spatial relationships with everyone on the field.
And this is a really sophisticated idea. The actual distance between an official and a player matters a lot because that proximity, it directly shapes the emotional tone of the entire interaction.
And the sources break this down into zones.
4 critical zones, yeah. You've got intimate, personal, social, and public.
So give us an example. How does a great official use those zones?
Okay, so say a player comes up to ask about a routine foul. A good official will probably keep them in that personal space. It's a comfortable conversational distance.
But if things get heated,
if an argument erupts, they might suddenly find themselves in the intimate space, and that just instantly ramps up the tension. A great official knows how to manage that. They might take a small step back, shift the interaction into the calmer social space.
That's fascinating. And then there's this other term, paralanguage. To me, that just perfectly captures the idea that how you deliver a message can completely change it.
Oh, absolutely. Paralanguage is the how you say it, or the what you say. For an official, that means controlling their voice resonance sounding firm, not shaky. It means managing their speed, their projection, their pitch.
Because if you call a big technical foul, but your voice is quiet and timid,
you're basically inviting a challenge. You have to project total authority just through the sound of your voice.
And if an official doesn't master these skills, the sources say they can fall into one of 4 dominant communication styles, some of them pretty damaging.
They really range. You've got the fighters who see every single interaction as a battle they have to win. Then there were the dictators who are just obsessed with asserting authority, giving commands.
And on the other end of the spectrum,
you find the quitters. They're so scared of conflict, they avoid making the tough calls altogether.
And the one everyone should be aiming for, the ideal model, is the negotiator.
Correct. Negotiators value 2 things equally: their responsibility to the rules and maintaining a positive relationship with the participants. It's a give and take.
But here's the key question for me. How do they stop people from taking advantage of that give and take? How does that not just get seen as weakness?
By being approachable, but absolutely firm on the decision itself. The advice is pretty clear. Stay composed, always. Be polite, but firm when you address behavior. And this is crucial. Avoid shouting. Shouting is a sign you've lost control.
And what about the crowd?
Golden rule. Ignore the fans completely, unless they are actively disrupting the game.
That idea, the line between firmness and escalation, it leads us right into our next segment, conflict management and teamwork. We know conflict is just. It's going to happen. Perceived bias, player frustration, even trash talk.
Or sledging, as it's sometimes called.
Right.
Yeah, that's a huge source of conflict because it gets personal and forces the official to step in. And to do that, your toolkit has to be ready. It always starts with staying calm.
Okay, so you're calm. But now you have 3 players in your face, all screaming you missed a huge call. What's next?
You use active listening and empathy. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to change your decision.
Of course not.
But it means you acknowledge their point of view, just for a second. You say something like, I hear your frustration, but this is my call. Just validating their feeling can de-escalate things so quickly. After that, it's clear communication, consistency, and decisive decision-making. Hesitation will kill you.
It sounds like a lot to juggle in a split second. Officials must need some kind of preloaded conflict management plan.
They absolutely do. And that plan starts before the game even begins, talking through scenarios with your partners. But the real high-level skill, it's deciding when not to respond at all.
That has to be so hard, especially when you feel like you're being personally attacked.
It is, but the best advice is just to acknowledge and move on. A simple nod, a small gesture, that's it. If you have to say something, keep it brief and polite. And the big warning in the material is avoid defensiveness.
Why is that so bad?
Because defending your call just drags out the conflict. It makes it seem like you have something to prove, and it invites them to argue back. You get stuck in this negative spiral.
And you can't really do any of this alone. This brings us to the idea of officials needing to be a team.
Oh, teamwork is non-negotiable. The sources have this really powerful cautionary tale from the Willie Brinkman Cup finals.
Right, I remember this.
The author describes watching the officiating crew, and they were just completely individualistic, self-focused. They had no respect for each other's jurisdictions on the court.
And what was the result of that kind of selfish approach?
Total chaos. They literally started competing with each other. You had multiple officials making calls in the exact same area. It was confusing. It was inconsistent. It completely undermined their authority.
So the players just stopped respecting the call.
Of course they did. It turned into what the author called a competition among referees to blow the whistle. A complete breakdown.
Wow. So how does the lead ref stop that kind of ego clash from happening?
You have to build an environment where egos get checked at the door. Recognize each other's strengths, coordinate your responses. In a conflict, a unified front is everything. A simple look between partners, a small hand gesture. It shows the players they're dealing with a cohesive unit, not just one person they can isolate.
Let's shift gears a bit. In segment 3, we're looking at the official not just as an enforcer, but as the conductor of the game.
Yeah.
They control the flow, the tempo. One decision can change everything.
The best refs are masters of timing. They're always walking this fine line between proactive intervention and just letting the game flow. And sometimes even a well-intentioned intervention can totally backfire.
This is where that wild anecdote about the semifinal game comes in, isn't it? The one where the ref stopped the game for something that seems so minor.
Exactly. It was this incredibly intense, high-energy semifinal. The rhythm was just electric, and the referee, out of nowhere, stops the whole game to inspect the length of the player's fingernails.
You can't be serious. I can only imagine the reaction from the coaches and players. Why was that so bad for the game?
It wasn't about being wrong on the rule. It was about the timing. He killed the rhythm stone dead. All that intensity just evaporated. It took the team several minutes to get that momentum back. It was a perfect example of being technically correct, but completely missing the psychology of the game.
So positively contributing to the tempo means being efficient during dead balls, fouls, substitutions, that sort of thing.
Right, and they do it by, as the sources say, hustling without rushing, moving quickly but calmly. It projects control. And what's really interesting is that they can also use tempo control as a tool.
You mean they'll deliberately slow the game down?
Yes. If things are getting aggressive, if a team is losing control, a smart official will slow down the restart. Maybe have a quick, calm word with a coach. That little pause gives everyone a second to breathe, to cool down, and it restores a less volatile pace to the game.
Okay, let's trace the path that gets an official to that point where it all becomes instinctive. We can look at the 4 stages of highly skilled refereeing, starting at the very bottom with unconscious incompetence.
That's the total novice.
Yeah.
They don't even know what they don't know about positioning or when to act. Their whole focus is just learning the basic rules. A lot of people quit here.
Then they move up to conscious incompetence. They know they have gaps.
Yep. This is the seeing but not calling stage. They know where they should be, but their body and their whistle lag behind their brain. This is where they're really trying to learn game management and communication.
Stage 3 is conscious competence, seeing and calling.
Right. Now they're actively managing the game. They're asking for feedback. They're self-critiquing. The whistle is becoming more instinctive, but they still have to consciously think about almost every decision.
And finally, the top, The elite level, unconscious competence, the seeing and choosing mode.
This is mastery. Making the right call is second nature. It takes no mental energy. And that frees them up to focus on the truly elite skill, selectively using the whistle. They know when to enforce the letter of the law and when to let a tiny thing go to preserve the flow of the game. They're choosing the impact of the call.
And we see that in the big names like Kalina or Shocker. How do they get that game acumen? How are they always ahead of the play?
They study the game like top coaches do. They don't just know rules, they know player tendencies, team strategies. They anticipate where the play is going to be, not where it is now. And that allows them to make these confident calls from the perfect position. It takes unbreakable focus, fearless courage, and just deep mental resilience.
Which brings us to our fourth segment and a pretty sobering look at the external world. We've talked about what the official can control. Now let's talk about the systemic barriers, the political reality of it all.
The sources are pretty blunt about this. They highlight a huge deficiency in how referees are developed. The training is almost all rules, mechanics, and fitness. But the biggest complaint is a lack of good, constructive feedback after a match.
So the observer reports they get, they don't really help them improve.
Often, no. They don't translate into real change. And you see this huge gap. At the international level, you have famous ex-referees holding these frequent deep dive seminars with video analysis. Referees pay good money to go to those. But at the domestic level, maybe you get a seminar twice a year.
And that crucial psychological training, the resilience piece, that gets ignored too.
It's often seen as, too soft, a distraction from the hard skills. But without that mental training, officials are left completely vulnerable when they run into the biggest barrier of all, the politics of the sport.
Let's get into that uncomfortable truth. The sources talk about high-level sports not as a hobby, but as a struggle for authority.
It's this recognition that just being good at your job isn't enough. You also need political competence. You need strong lobby. You need people representing you in management. And the reports they reference are, they're eye-opening about how power really works.
And we're talking about actual manipulation of referee assignments at the highest levels.
Yeah, there are accounts of, say, the FIBA president literally crossing names off a list for a critical game and putting his own preferred referees in. When that happens, it's clear your performance isn't the only thing that matters. Powerful national lobbies, Spanish, Greek, former Yugoslavian, are often mentioned as having a huge amount of influence.
And that political influence can have real consequences for the games themselves.
Oh, definitely. You can look at someone like Shane Zerzik in soccer governance. The sources suggest his influence was vital in making sure that big, unfavorable refereeing mistakes just didn't happen to the teams he was supporting in key moments. It shows that success isn't just about having a great team, it's about having political power to ensure fair or even favorable officiating.
So the change that's needed isn't just better training, it's a systemic one. What's the takeaway for countries who feel they're on the outside of this system?
They have to start prioritizing effective representation in these governing bodies. You have to demand a seat at the table, a member on the referee appointment committee. If you don't fix that political imbalance, all the work you do to improve individual referees can just be wiped out by forces they can't control.
Okay, let's bring this all together. We've gone from the internal world of mastery to the external chaos of politics. It seems the journey from that novice with a rule book to an elite official is all about mastering communication, conflict management, and just unbreakable psychological resilience.
That resilience is everything. It's what helps you handle an angry coach, but also the knowledge that the system itself might not be fair. The veteran ref, Avi Benbenisti, put it perfectly. Mistakes will happen. But if you dwell on one, it destroys your performance for the rest of the game. Resilience is just that ability to bounce back instantly.
And the sources give some really practical advice for this. A simple self-evaluation. Just 2 columns, strengths and weaknesses, after every performance.
It's essential for balanced growth.
Yeah.
It keeps you from just constantly beating yourself up. And Supervisor Don Stepanchev adds a great point. We do not want officials to constantly criticize themselves in order to improve. They should appreciate their progression.
Acknowledge the flaw, but also recognize how far you've come.
Exactly.
That balance is the ultimate challenge, isn't it? The sources leave us with this one final powerful quote. You are only as good as the last game you refereed.
I mean, what a weight to carry. It puts this immense, never-ending pressure on you. So that leads to our final thought for you to consider. When you're pursuing excellence in your own field, whether that's sports or business or the arts, How do you balance that constant internal pressure to critique yourself with the need to actually appreciate your own progress and